Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a great holiday break and is feeling reinvigorated for the year ahead. Welcome to the January 9th, 2023 meeting of the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority Board of Trustees. Just a note, as you all heard logging in, this meeting is being recorded. It's also being live streamed on our website at njtpa.org. So first, some ground rules for this virtual meeting. Please mute your device when you're not speaking so we can reduce background noise. When you're making a motion or a comment, please state your name so we know who you are. For those of you logged in through the website or the app, please use the chat box to indicate when you'd like to comment or ask a question. Again, so that we can minimize the number of people talking over one another. Ted will be monitoring the chat box throughout the meeting. Any questions? Okay, so to start the meeting, I'll ask Beverly Morris to read the Open Public Meetings Act compliance notice and then go straight into the roll call. Beverly.
This is to advise that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been forwarded to the Newark Star Ledger, the Jersey Journal, the Record, the Asbury Park Press, the New Jersey Herald News, and the Courier News. It was posted in the Essex County Hall of Records in Newark, New Jersey. Okay, and now for the roll. Bergen.
Peter Butzel is present.
Essex.
David Antonio, present.
Hudson. Hunterdon.
Catherine Fullerton.
Jersey City.
Mike Manzella, present.
Middlesex.
Charlie Kinney, present.
Monmouth. Well, I did see Terry O'Connor. Morris.
Stephen Shaw, present.
Newark. Ocean.
Jack Kelly, present.
Passaic.
Don Bartlett, present.
Somerset. Sussex.
Sarah Sweet.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sussex.
I saw Tom Dravick on
So
Beverly.
did I. All right, I'll put him down. Union.
Eddie Jankowski, Union County.
Warren.
Jason Sarnoski here.
Governor's Office.
Dorian Smith here.
NJDOT.
Andy Swords, present.
NJ Transit.
Lou Milan here.
Port Authority.
Mary Kay Murphy here, so I believe present not voting.
Hey. And Citizens Representative.
Jared Rodriguez, present.
All right, we have 15 voting members present and a quorum.
Excuse me, Beverly, this is Terry O'Connor from Monmouth County. I had difficulty joining, so I am here.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry, and welcome back, Mary Kay. Good to hear your voice. So we move on to the approval of minutes. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes of the November 14th board meeting?
Hearing none, all for the minutes for approval. Ocean
Very
County.
good, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Warren.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any abstentions?
Steve Shaw from Morris County abstains.
Very good. I believe, Beverly, that's a passing vote.
Okay, minutes are approved.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to take this opportunity to present my report. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us this morning. First, I'm happy to welcome the voice you just heard, Morris County Commissioner Stephen Shaw, to the board. Stephen replaces Commissioner Kathy DeFilippo, who retired at the end of last year. We look forward to working with you, Commissioner.
Thank
I
you,
also
Mr.
want to
Chairman.
welcome our speaker, Eric Gardner from VIA, who will be giving a presentation on microtransit. If you didn't see the latest edition of In Transaction magazine, I encourage you to check it out. It features an article on microtransit, including VIA's partnership with Jersey City, as well as articles on alternative fuel vehicles and how the pandemic continues to affect public transit agencies. Turning to today's agenda, I'd like to note that it's clear from the work that we're doing is really guided by our long-range plan and its focus on transportation, people, and community and opportunity. In addition to hearing a presentation on providing flexible and equitable transportation, we'll consider action items that fund the replacement of 2 aging bridges, making them safer for all users, as well as pavement preservation and repair projects to keep our roads in a state of good repair. We'll also set safety targets that aim to reduce the number of roadway fatalities to 0 across our region. And while it may seem like we just approved Plan 2050, that was back in September 2021, the NJTPA is already gearing up for the next long-range plan, which we're scheduled to adopt in 2025. This includes a consultant contract for outreach and the work program for next year, which David will discuss in his report shortly. The draft work program also continues several municipally focused programs, which NJTPA staff recently promoted at the New Jersey State League of Municipalities Conference. While most of the NJTPA's funding goes directly to the subregions and partner agencies, we have several technical assistance programs open to municipalities. These include our work with Harrison this year under our Planning for Emerging Centers program. 7 municipalities participating in the latest cycle of our Complete Streets Technical Assistance program, and the Vibrant Places program project in Lambertville and the village of Asbury, which I announced at our last meeting. Our booth at the League in 2022 helped us introduce the NJTPA to many more municipal officials who may not normally work with this agency. Staff was also able to share information about federal funding opportunities under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA. I'll remind everybody that at njtpa.org/IIJA, you'll see recurring updates on available grant opportunities that you can apply for under that bipartisan federal legislation. We'll be looking for more opportunities to raise the profile of the agency and promote these programs and others in the future. I attended the conference, and it was great to see so many communities visiting our booth and learning about our programs. Commissioner Kenny also joined staff at the booth during the conference. I encourage all of you to avail yourselves of the opportunity to take part in gatherings like the League and the annual Springtime Transaction Conference as a way to represent NJTPA and become more familiar with our staff and the outreach materials that we use to connect with municipalities and subregions. Before I wrap up my remarks, I also want to talk about our return to fully in-person board meetings, which I mentioned at the December Joint Committee meeting. Our next meeting in March will be held at the NJTPA office in Newark. I made this decision based on the results of a survey distributed to board members and alternates, and in consultation with the entire executive committee. While there were mixed responses on whether we should continue with virtual or return to in-person board meetings, there was a consensus that there's value in meeting face-to-face. In-person meetings provide more opportunities for board members and staff to collaborate and share ideas, and they allow us to interact with members of the public who come out to speak about the items that we're voting on and other matters. We will continue to live stream board meetings on the NJTPA's website and YouTube channel, and of course, if there's inclement weather or a public health emergency, we will shift back to virtual meetings as needed. Committee meetings will continue to be held virtually throughout this year and beyond. That concludes my report, and thank you all very much. Any remarks from NJDOT this morning?
No, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any remarks from New Jersey Transit this morning?
No, not at this time, but thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That brings us to letter E. David, would you kindly present your report to the board?
Sure. Just a quick sound check as always. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'd just like to add, as the chair said, Happy New Year to everyone. It's good to be kicking off 2023 with you all. I'm very optimistic about this new year and the opportunities it presents for the NJTPA. As the chair mentioned, this includes continued progress in implementing the priorities of Plan 2050. Just a few examples of some of the things we're going to see at this board meeting and meetings to come are actions that will help maintain and improve roads, bridges, and rail lines, that support complete streets and improve safety and encourage alternative transportation modes and much more. In doing all this work in the coming year, central staff will look to build on our long-standing cooperative relationships with NJDOT, NJ Transit, the Port Authority, the Authorities Unit, and our subregions. We feel that the good working relationships that we all have working together should allow our region to take full advantage of federal funding programs and grants under the IIJA, which the chairman mentioned. As we know, this bill covers a wide range of infrastructure needs, particularly in terms of transportation. And I think we're already seeing benefits from the funding under the IIJA. Funding already, increased funding has come through for such things as rehabilitation of transit stations, some new planning efforts, such as exploring ferry service out of Union County. Definitely seeing support for expanding the electric vehicle charging network. And as we see in our action items on today's agenda, the increased formula funding for critical road and bridge projects is something that our region will definitely be using and taking advantage of. One thing in particular I want to note is that according to figures we just recently received from NJDOT, in the past federal fiscal year, our region authorized $29.4 million in Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP funding, for priority safety projects in our local safety program. And that's the highest amount ever authorized in one fiscal year for our region in that program. That program is going strong. Additional projects in the local safety program and the high-risk rural roads program will be going before the project prioritization committee next month, and then coming to the next board meeting in March. So we look forward to continuing to build that program. And of course, as far as funding, federal funding, the region is going to be benefiting from the crucial support for replacing the Portal Bridge and building the new Hudson River tunnels, along with a variety of other efforts and initiatives. One thing I do want to mention is that in the coming year, we're going to be looking through our next work program to help our subregions, our interested subregions, move forward in the Safe Streets for All program. At least 7 NJTPA subregions have already applied for some type of funding from that program, and an award announcement is expected from USDOT fairly soon. But we want to enable all of our interested subregions to apply for future rounds of these grants and to bolster their safety planning activities. Part of what's required to get implementation funding under those grants is a local safety action plan. So as part of our work program, which the chair mentioned is in development, we're looking to offer assistance to any interested subregions in developing those local safety action plans, which again are a prerequisite for seeking federal funding for implementation for Safe Streets for All. So we're going to be talking to the RTAC about this at a teleconference on January 17th next week. So these safety action plans look at capital improvements, education, and enforcement, all factors that can affect and improve safety. The plans do have some specific requirements under the federal guidance, such as they must include a Vision Zero goal, be endorsed by a local governing body. They need to include a committee or task force that works to develop the plan and will oversee implementation. And while these will be very valuable for providing eligibility for federal funding, they're also valuable for just the planning work that gets done and the identification of needs and strategies to address those needs. So we really urge all our subregions to consider participating. As I said, we'll be talking to the RTAC about that next week, and we hope that we can really move the region forward. Some of our subregions, including I think most recently Middlesex County, have put a local safety action plan in place. So there are examples in our region, and there also are examples across the nation that we can look at to see what needs to be done. As I mentioned, that's just one task in the Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP, for fiscal year 2024, which will begin this coming July 1st. And the work program, as I believe most know, guides the work of our central staff, the subregions, the transportation management associations going forward. A link to that draft work program was distributed some time ago to all members so that the work program could be reviewed. We're asking for any comments from our members by Friday. The schedule for the work program is for it to go to the Planning and Economic Development Committee at the joint meeting in February, and then to come to the board in March for approval. So I think that there's some interesting new activities in that work program, in addition to all the mandated work we do and our ongoing activities. So just a few of the things that we'll be doing in the coming year are updating our freight industry forecasts, updating our regional capital investment strategy, initial public outreach work for the next long-range plan, and also working with our neighboring MPO in New York City, the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council, to prepare a new regional household travel survey. And the last time such a survey was conducted was over a decade ago. And of course, much has changed since then in terms of transportation, remote work, the pandemic, and other growth of freight in our region, so many other things. Just a couple of things to note before I finish. I mentioned NJTPA, our neighboring MPO. I should note that on November 15th, we hosted a meeting of the Multi-State Freight Working Group, which is part of our Metropolitan Area Planning Forum, the MAP Forum, with representatives of 10 MPOs in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. We looked at effective last mile workforce access, particularly in the freight-related sector. We also participated in the MAP Forum annual meeting, which was hosted by NJTPA, and we heard about New York City's Central Business District Congestion Pricing Plan, as well as the future of the Northeast Corridor. Both of those recordings can be seen on our website or the MAP Forum website. And then just briefly, I want to mention the upcoming Transaction Conference, April 18th through 20th, the New Jersey Association of Counties Conference, May 3rd through 5th. The NJTPA plans to participate in those, and we encourage everybody to attend. We'll certainly be in touch with board members about opportunities at those conferences. And, those are just some of the things that are going on and some of the ways we're promoting our various projects and programs. And with that, I will conclude my report. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, David. Next is a presentation from Eric Gardner, Director of East Coast Partnerships at VIA. Mr. Gardner leads VIA's partnership for the East Coast. He helps transit agencies, cities, and universities define their goals and priorities for on-demand, paratransit, and integrated mobility services. Eric acts as a conduit between VIA's partners and its operational team. Prior to VIA, Eric led federal business development for a company focused on last-mile distribution of medical and other essential supplies. He also led teams at General Electric Transportation, focused on digital industrial strategy, mergers and acquisitions, and supply chain management within the rail industry. He started his career in the public sector as a U.S. Navy SEAL officer, U.S. Senate staffer, and policy advisor. Please welcome Eric Gardner.
Thanks so much, John, and good morning to everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if you can see it all right.
Looks good.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So first of all, thank you very much to the whole group here and to the NJTPA for inviting VIA to present this morning. And I saw Mike Manzella's on. Hopefully he can keep me honest on any of the things I tell you about Jersey City. But we're here today to talk to you about microtransit and how it can be a flexible and equitable public transportation option for New Jersey. Just a brief round of introductions. As you noted, my name is Eric Gardner. I'm also joined by my colleague Arjun, who will be talking at the end of the presentation about specific ways to leverage federal funding for innovative mobility solutions. So today we'll just be going over a brief overview of VIA as a company, also doing a bit of a microtransit 101. I know some of you have some familiarity with it, but we'll talk about it from a basic level. And we'll talk about Jersey City and a couple other case studies that I think will be informative for the group. And then again, we'll end on talking more about innovative mobility funding. So first to start off, and I'll just say quickly, because of the compressed time, we'll hopefully keep all questions until the end and hopefully have a couple minutes, but the staff can keep me honest on whether we have time for those. Hopefully we will. So VIA is a public mobility company. So we provide transit technology that has built a digital infrastructure that connects everything within a community. We have a software platform that allows our partners first to kind of visualize and analyze and then ultimately plan their own transportation network, and then bring that into to real life with a set of tools that are dispatcher, operator, and rider facing. And then ultimately, we also want to be able to use the data from that service, which we'll go over today, to improve the service and bring it back into the planning environment. And across the globe right now, there's over 600 public entities that are partnered with VIA. So this is across all these locations, we are facilitating 2.5 million shared rides per month. And what's really important here is that each of these dots is different. So the way that, for example, a small rural New Zealand village use VIA's platform is obviously very different than, for example, Jersey City. Each community is very different, and the way they leverage demand response differs for very important reasons. Our VIA's platform is used for everything from fixed route and on-demand transportation planning to on-demand public microtransit, also paratransit and non-emergency medical travel. We also do both fixed route scheduling and work with school buses. So for example, we're working with the Department of Education in New York City across their 10,000 vehicle fleet on both student visibility, but also dynamic routing for pupil transportation. And we also work with large organizations and campuses such as like Harvard or Stevens Institute of Technology right there in Hoboken on campus shuttle operations. But today that I'll primarily be talking to you about microtransit. So what is microtransit? Right. So at its core, it is a technology-enabled shared ride public transportation mode. So we use routing algorithms and real-time on-the-ground information to group passengers into shared rides. So the experience for a passenger is one where they will call us, hail a ride through a rider-facing application or call in to book a ride if they need to. And then a driver will be routed to them based not only on real-time traffic, but where other rides are being requested. The rider will be asked to walk a couple hundred feet to a virtual pickup point. They'll take a ride pooled with other passengers, and then they'll be dropped off at a virtual drop-off point and then walk several hundred feet to their ultimate destination. And where we've seen across globally, really, where microtransit is best used as a complement to fixed route. So I'm going to talk about a couple kind of top level cases where we see microtransit be an really effective tool for the communities that we work with. The first is where, despite its best efforts, fixed route just can't reach everywhere. So there are gaps where fixed route can't necessarily reach, especially if you think about fixed route as an artery, talking about the capillaries that need to reach into communities. Microtransit has been a really effective way to fill those gaps. It's most effective when it complements the fixed route, especially in terms of first and last mile trips to and from high capacity corridors that have fixed route, for example, bus rapid transit or regional rail. There are certain occasions where there are routes that are underperforming, and if they are equipped with on-demand, you can actually expand the coverage area, increase ridership, and increase quality of service, while effectively converting that fixed route to an on-demand zone that encompasses not only the previous route but the neighboring areas. And then lastly, just as a fundamental mode for communities, this is a very different way for seniors and those with mobility impairments to move around a community as a public mode. And I should note, in that kind of corner-to-corner model that I talked about, where you walk to a virtual bus stop for pickup and drop-off, with those that are mobility impaired, there's always the ability with any well-run microtransit service to provide door-to-door service for those that are mobility impaired, so they don't have to walk that extra amount because they can't in some cases. The way that partners, our communities, be they cities or transit agencies, work to bring microtransit to life is usually one of two ways. They either already have a fleet of vehicles and drivers, and they just need the technology to do dynamic dispatch and routing and turn their network on demand. The other, and this is where we work with some cases, for example, Jersey City, entities that didn't normally operate their own transit before and wouldn't expect to now. We help them provide not only the technology, but also the operation. So this is everything from sourcing the vehicles, providing drivers, doing insurance, fleet maintenance and management, customer service. So basically an end-to-end third-party transit operator for on-demand microtransit. And the way this happens in terms of technology is using 4 cloud-based tools. So first is this rider application, and that's how riders are able to book a ride, have real-time visibility and tracking, and see an ETA, and then also rate their ride afterwards. This is all tracked from an operations center that's also cloud-based that kind of gives any administrative view a system visibility and management function. And then the driver app looks a lot like Google Maps, except that it is layered with 2 additional mapping layers that allow for dynamic dispatch and routing in that particular community. And then, of course, the planning suite remix that we use both for service design and to help our partners just think holistically about how they want microtransit in their communities. Ultimately, any good kind of microtransit provider or partner is also going to provide another set of kind of advisory services alongside these technology tools. And that includes, teams that can allow the partner to most effectively market and acquire riders and gain organic ridership growth over the course of the service. Also, continuing service design work as you think about expanding or changing zones, because at its core, microtransit is supposed to be a very flexible tool and public transit mode. And again, if you are working with any sort of microtransit partner for operations as well, it's important to have one that can handle everything from customer service, fleet management, driver acquisition and onboarding, and ultimately providing those very core and important operations that are critical to a high quality service. So that's kind of just a little bit of a background on VIA and the technology and operations kind of framework that we bring to microtransit. I think the best way to really talk through this is to talk about a very fundamental community that's fundamental to all of Northern New Jersey, and that's our Jersey City On-Demand partnership. So just to give like a little bit of background, in 2019, there were some fixed routes that were cut throughout the city. And so especially in the northern and southern areas of Jersey City, there was 2 things that existed. Transit gaps related to getting around the Jersey City within itself in terms of community trips, but also getting first last mile to high capacity corridors that were running into New York, your Journal Squares, your pathways. Those were much diminished. So the city kind of took a step back and said, how can we complement the fixed route that really is running effectively in our central zone? And they talked about doing things like TNC or taxi vouchers. They thought about, should they start their own fixed route? Ultimately, what they settled on was an on-demand microtransit network with these kind of wonderfully Barney purple vehicles that you see here, which are in and of themselves, I think, maybe the best marketing and advertisement for the service in the community. And they started it with a zoned approach where you can go from outer to central or central to outer or anywhere within the outer zone itself. The service has been, I think a massive success. We have over 1 million rides that have been served to date since launching in early 2020, doing about 57,000 rides per month. And I think most importantly, over 300,000 miles of single occupancy vehicle driving were avoided just in Q3 of last year alone. And you can see from this graph, we started at maybe the worst time to start a public transit service, maybe since the Spanish flu in March 2020. And we even throughout COVID saw steady growth because this was a lifeline for essential workers to be able to move around the community and get to fixed route. Ultimately, we through rider communication tools and surveys, we determined that weekend service might actually be something that people wanted as well. That grew the service subsequently in mid 2021, and we now reached a point where we're doing over 2,000 rides per day on a normal basis. And again, this is a way for community members to not only close the transit gap to getting to intermodal hubs, but also increase access to jobs and education and critical services that they wouldn't be able to reach without this service. And I think that this is really borne out through surveys we've been able to run with the riders. So you can see over half of the riders are coming from households where income is below 50K, and a very high percentage of female minority riders and those under age 35. So this is very much a public transit mode that is serving not only traditional, what we think of as transit dependent, but also transit choice. There's a whole latent underlying ridership that is tapped into when on-demand's adopted in a community. And for many, it's about the affordability. So this is, again, a ride that is offered in the community for the same fare as you would for New Jersey Transit fixed route, for example. And it's critical because 80% of the riders said that they have saved money by riding this service. It's one of its biggest benefits, especially with the demographics that are using it. And just about half are using the service to connect to existing public transit, and especially in that central zone. And again, it's really just making a huge impact for those that would have no other way to get around otherwise. Now, that's a great example. I also want to take this opportunity to walk through two other examples, especially given the wide array of areas that are under NJTPA. Not every place is like Jersey City. And so I wanted to quickly talk about two other partners, Cat Metro in Austin and also King County Metro in Seattle. So in Cat Metro in 2017, you can see this is a very small purple zone down there. They started a pilot that lasted only 12 months. And they wanted to use via powered microtransit to improve an underutilized dial ride service they had. They were able to double ridership, and because of that, took all the data from that 12-month pilot, and then went about using that to create a network that spanned the entire northern Austin suburbs to determine where microtransit best serve the community across their entire service area. What they ended up doing is growing the service to about 11 different suburban, urban, and rural zones, all of which connect to regional fixed route in different ways. And they're using the same platform to integrate the services across different agencies and operators that Cat Metro uses to serve these different areas. King County Metro is another really interesting example that in 2019, they have, several light rail stations that run down. You can see that blue line in the diagram is where King County Metro light rail runs. That's a conduit for a lot of lower income communities that live in South Seattle that also live in neighborhoods that you can't see from here because it doesn't show topography, where it's very hilly. And there were park and ride areas that people, if they had a vehicle, were getting there before 6 a.m. just so they could get a spot to be able to take the train in. We worked with King County Metro to launch a microtransit service that only serves first and last mile connections to light rail. So you can't even get a proposal or a trip unless it ends or begins at a light rail station. This is a service, especially during peak hours, that we've seen incredibly high utilization, up to 15 riders per vehicle hour in some cases. And at its peak was doing about 6,000 rides per week. And they've grown the service to, originally it was only that blue zone you see on the screen. Now they've expanded to both the orange and red zones. And within those, King County Metro is using the microtransit service to serve paratransit riders anywhere within those 4 colored zones. So a really innovative way to serve different types of demand response populations, but with the same fleet. And it's also integrated into the local ORCA regional transit card or fare payment system. So I know very quick, I'd love to answer some questions as well. I really quickly want to turn it over to my colleague Arjun, who's going to walk you through how to think about these different streams of federal infrastructure money that have been announced and how they can be best leveraged for microtransit. Arjun, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Arjun. I'm on the policy team at VIA. And as Eric said, I just wanted to walk through some new programs which can be used to fund on-demand microtransit, along with other services. These are 4 programs that were either released or amended through the recent IIJA that all provide explicit eligibility for on-demand services. The first I want to talk about is the Carbon Reduction Program, which is a formula stream of funding that is assigned to cities and MPOs. As a whole, the program's about $1.3 billion per year, but as you may or may not know, it's sub-allocated to states and MPOs. The Newark, New York section of New Jersey has a sub-allocation of about 13 to 14 million per year for the next 5 years. That's money that can be used for services like on-demand transit explicitly, as well as other things like congestion relief. And because it's sub-allocated, that's money that's specifically sort of appropriated to a certain area and therefore can't be sort of competed against. Another program that hasn't been released yet, but we anticipate releasing in the first quarter of this year, is the Congestion Relief Program. Again, there's specific eligibility for on-demand transit. And this is a program that's eligible for areas of the country, urbanized areas of the country greater than 1 million in population. So that would include the Newark, New York metro area and the Philadelphia metro area, although for NJTPA, the former will probably be more interesting. Those are projects greater than 10 million in size, which could fund quite an ambitious regional microtransit service and would be available, again, we anticipate the first quarter of this year. There's also the Rural Transportation Program. Again, as the name suggests, this is available only for rural areas. It can fund on-demand mobility, and in fact, in the past year, USDOT awarded $10 million to North Carolina to set up sort of regional on-demand services in rural areas. So that's a very exciting proposal specifically for rural areas that, as Eric was saying, might not be served by transit. There's also advanced technologies funding across a number of different grants. The most important were probably SMART and what's now called ATTAIN, but was in the past ATC-MTD. And these are pots of money that are available for innovative technologies, including on-demand transit and software and operations associated with that. I'd also just like to call out as well that states are becoming more interested in funding these kinds of projects, including New Jersey. A bill was recently reported out of the Assembly Transportation Committee that provides $10 million in a state grant program for innovative mobility, including on-demand transit. And obviously, NJTPA and NJ Transit recently announced $7 million for microtransit projects, which is a development we're very encouraged by. So yeah, if anyone has any questions on those as well, I'd be happy to take them.
And then again to the group, I know we've been allocated a small amount of time and we're just one piece of your agenda. I'm happy to answer the questions live or in writing as a follow-up to some of the questions that were in the chat. What would work best for you, John?
That's great, Eric. Yeah, first of all, my compliments. You've had some of the most vigorous Q&A popping up in the chat of a lot of presentations that we've had, which means people are really interested and intrigued by what you have to say. What I usually do is first open the floor to members of the board who want to ask questions. And I see Jared posted a question in the chat. Jared, do you want to unmute and ask your question to Eric? Maybe Jared's not able to do that. What Jared posted, Eric, is a question I'll read for everybody. Very interested in the various business models necessary to support this. How is private enterprise leveraged with municipal funding? Is there a sweet spot mix for PPP, public-private partnership?
Yep. So I think what you're alluding to is like how is this a partnership, right? And so in the Jersey City case, for example, we are a third-party transit operator as well as a technology provider. So the microtransit, just like any other public mode, is a publicly subsidized mode that is offered through contracting for operations and technology for its service. I hope that helps. If you have a follow-up, I'm happy to answer that, Jared.
Let me open the floor to Jared and also any other member of the board that wants to unmute and ask a question to Eric. And then after that, I'll read out some of the questions from the chat.
Chairman Bartlett, if I may, I can maybe add a little more color to our VIA JC program and the tremendous benefits we've seen from it. As Eric talked about, it is serving the exact populations it was designed to serve. And we're seeing really encouraging statistics about the popularity of the service. Just this year, 2022, ridership grew 23% over the ridership that we saw in 2021. And we're up to nearly 5 passenger trips per driver hour, which is really important because, it's being used more as a public transit service and not just, a single occupancy type service for riders to get from point A to point B. I know there's always questions about whether on-demand microtransit sort of cannibalizes existing fixed route transit services. One of the studies that VIA has done over the past year is looking at what percentage of trips could have been served, what percentage of trips taken by our VIA on-demand microtransit could have been served by fixed route. And the analysis found that less than 25% of the trips could have been served by fixed route. So the VIA JC program is really showing that it's enhancing and not taking away from existing fixed route services. So this year, we've actually moved forward with integrating NJ Transit services into the VIA app. So when a rider will request to reach their destination, they'll also, in addition to getting a VIA proposal, they'll also receive a proposal that says what fixed route transit, whether that's bus or light rail, is in the area. So that's now integrated into the app. And then lastly, I just wanted to talk about a little bit, I know there was a couple questions about funding. We're really excited that in addition to the funding that the city provides to subsidize the service, we're now seeing a lot of external agencies begin to fund some of these operations. So we received this year a grant from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection for $600,000 to further electrify the fleet of our VIA JC vehicles. We also, thank you NJ Transit, we also received this year an NJ JARC grant for $250,000. And maybe Lou can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we are one of the first new recipients of the NJ JARC program in several years. So we're really excited and encouraged by that. And then additionally, as far as private funding goes, our service has generated this year over $100,000 in advertising funding. That's done by screens on top of the vehicle and within the vehicle. And I know that VIA is actively, engaging in a search for like title sponsorship to help offset the cost of the service. And I think most importantly, the program is being recognized. The ITS-NJ named the VIA JC program the Outstanding Program of the Year in 2022. And the program is really helping the city to meet its other goals, specifically in safety. By reducing single occupancy vehicle trips, it's helping the overall safety situation in Jersey City. And we're really excited that this year, the first year, we were able to have zero traffic fatalities on our city streets. And we think that VIA is a part of that. So I just wanted to add those additional points. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, that actually occurred to me during Eric's presentation, is that the fact that people are able to access a service like this at the first and last mile point is probably reducing pedestrian crossings of roadways and thereby adding to pedestrian safety. So I want to kind of pull together a couple of questions that folks posted as a follow-up to your input, Mike, and I'll let you or Eric or Arjun or whoever respond. And that is, you talked about 5 rides per driver hour. Sounds like that may mean that sometimes you've got multiple riders in a vehicle. Are there security concerns, as some folks have had with Uber and Lyft? What is the cost of a ride, and how does that compare with public transit fares? Those are both questions from Sally in the chat. And then I know Neil would want me to ask, Neil asks, does VIA include bike share or scooter share in its services? I would actually add to that, is somebody with a bike or a scooter able to transport that on a VIA vehicle in the same way that they could hopping on the subway or the path?
Great. All great questions, John. I will try to attack those sequentially. So the first question about, I believe, was about the cost per ride. Is that correct? Yeah. So
safety and cost per ride.
Safety of the drivers. Yes. So the way that we're able to operate this is as a transportation network company registered under the state of New Jersey. So whatever screening has to go on for drivers to comply with having a TNC license, we always adopt as a floor. With partners, we can also provide enhanced driver screening if that's something. For example, we do that with a lot of university populations for safe ride programs. I would say that we have not had a huge problem to date on this, right? When you offer a public transportation system, there are always incidents. I think it's more about how you handle the incident in terms of management for both the rider, most importantly the rider, but also transparency as the operator back to the city. And so we have a specific mechanism for doing that real time, so that the city, in this case, or any partner, is part of the incident response. But the short answer is we've been able to, I think, create some really great job opportunities for Jersey City residents through this, and have not had any huge issues in terms of driver safety. But it's always something also that we would provide training to the driver on before they even take their first shift within the service. In terms of the cost per ride, I believe the most recent figure I have is that across the this is a thing that we are always trying to drive down ourselves by virtue of the utilization we're able to bring. And to your earlier question, if we're not aggregating riders and there are not multiple passengers per driver hour, then we're not doing our job well. And Mike will keep us honest on that, and it's a mutual metric that we drive towards. But the cost per ride is now, I believe, at $11.61 is the last one. I think that's what we reported to the council in 2021. And so the fare for the ride is $2.50. It also, a slight deviation from that, that's anywhere from the center to the outer or outer to the center. For outer to outer trips beyond that $2.50, it's 50 cents per mile after that. But with the geography of the city, no ride is ever going to cost more than about $5 for a rider. And then what was the last question, John?
Oh, you're testing me. Bikes and scooters.
Bikes and scooters, yes. So in some of our other services, we actually are able to, when you book the ride, you can always say, hey, it's not just me. I have, 2 other people with me, for example, and that would be taken into account in terms of the open capacity in the vehicle. But for example, in we have a service that we run in Utah where you can indicate, I'd like to bring a bike on board. Or in the Utah case, that you can actually bring on skis seasonally because it's. But we can indicate that as kind of something that you'd want to bring, and that can be planned into the capacity for it. In terms of integrating, I think this was another question from the chat too. What's the difference between microtransit and mobility as a service? So mobility as a service, there's a lot of, I think, unuseful jargon, and I'll try and define these a little bit better. So mobility as a service is this idea that you should have an app that shows you every different mode that you could use to go from A to B in one setting. The reality is that by booking a microtransit ride through ride hailing, that's just one mode of kind of, that you could end up using. What we found most useful, instead of kind of a one app to necessarily like rule them all, is if a community, for example, has as is the case with Jersey City, like a really effective bike share network too, we can indicate those as like points of interest on the rider map. So when the rider pulls up the app and looks at it, they can say, I'm actually gonna bike the last like probably less than a mile. I'll take a ride to this city bike station. We can show those, and we found that to be kind of the most effective way to be able to facilitate that type of like multimodality while using microtransit.
Great answers. Thank you very much. I'm cognizant there were a couple other questions, but I'm also keeping an eye on the clock. I would encourage folks, if you want to wrap up real quick, Eric, or maybe you already have, feel free to reach out, I guess, to VIA or to NJTPA to follow up on questions that you still want an answer to. But this was very informative, Eric, and we appreciate you and your team joining us today.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity and for going long. We will provide this presentation as a PDF that can be sent out to all the members. If there are any follow-up questions, we're happy to answer those one-on-one. And really and truly, even if you are just exploring this the first time and you'd like a 15-minute conversation to even wrap your head around how you should even approach this, or if it's a possibility, especially for more, population, less dense population areas, because when you get into the more rural or suburban areas, it might make sense to do microtransit, but with a pre-booked environment as opposed to on demand, just in time. There are a lot of things to think through, and we're happy to be a sounding board for that, and really appreciate the opportunity to come here today and present. I'll ask one last question, which is, would you like VIA to exit for the duration of the meeting so you can all do your business without us on?
You don't have to hang around.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That was my answer. It's a public meeting and you're welcome, but
okay.
You don't need to be here anymore. So thanks again.
Okay. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Well, as those of you can see that following along on the screen, or If you printed out our agenda, that brings us to letter G, which is committee reports. And I'm going to call on Commissioner John Kelly to give the Project Prioritization Committee report.
Thank you, Commissioner Bartlett. And I am pleased to report on the activities of the Project Prioritization Committee, which considered 5 action items at the joint committee meeting in December, 2 of which are on today's agenda. The first is a set of minor amendments to the current Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, to add federal funds to 2 projects. For the Route 80 bridges over Howard Boulevard project in Morris County, one amendment will move $14 million from federal fiscal year 2024 to 2023 and add $16 million for a revised total of $44 million for construction in 2023. The funding source will be changed from National Highway Performance Program funds to Bridge Formula Program funds. The additional cost is due to the increased price of materials and changes needed to meet stormwater requirements. The amendment will also add $49.5 million to the NJTPA Pavement Preservation Program in fiscal year 2023 for a new total of $68.26 million. The additional funds are required to advance 10 pavement preservation projects in our region, which are anticipated to be authorized in the current fiscal year. This is listed as action item 1. The next item considered by the committee would amend the fiscal year 2022 through 2025 TIP to add 2 local projects as requested by Morris and Somerset counties. These projects have completed concept development and are ready to be programmed into the current TIP with federal funding. The Route 24 eastbound ramp to Columbia Turnpike project in Morris County will be allocated $17 million. The Great Road Bridge over Beaton's Brook project in Somerset County will be allocated $6.9 million in the TIP. Both projects will be funded from the NJTPA Future Projects line item, covering preliminary engineering through construction from fiscal year 2025 to 2028. This is listed as action item 2. Also at the meeting, the committee approved 2 modifications to the TIP. The first adds federal funds to the Kapowski Road North Avenue, North Avenue East Improvement Project as requested by the City of Elizabeth. This modification programs federal funds and updates the project schedule. The revised total for the project is $18.4 million through fiscal year 2027. The other modification adds funds to 3 projects as requested by the New Jersey Department of Transportation as follows. For the Route 280 westbound ramp over First and Orange Streets, Newark Subway, and New Jersey Transit project in East Essex County, $16 million in program funds was moved from fiscal year 2024 to 2023, and $11.6 million was added for a revised total of $42.7 million for construction in the current fiscal year. The cost increase is based on updated construction engineering, construction inspection, and utility estimates. For the Route 440, Route 95 to Creel Street project in Middlesex County, $4.8 million was added for preliminary engineering in the current fiscal year, increasing the total amount to $7.8 million. The project's complexity has increased the estimated cost of this phase of work. For the statewide drainage rehabilitation and improvements program, $11.2 million was added for engineering and construction, in fiscal year 2023 for a new total of $22.45 million. These committee-approved modifications require no further action. Finally, the committee approved the 2022 financial plan update for the replacement of Bridge S32 on Rumson Road over the Shrewsbury River project in Monmouth County. Under federal law, financial plans are required for projects costing between $100 million and $500 million. This project is anticipated to cost $131 million. As of August 29th, the project had expended $14.1 million. Construction began in January of 2021 and will continue through May of 2025. There has been no change in the construction cost since last year. As with the TIP modifications, no further action is required on the financial plan update. Chairman Bartlett, that concludes my report.
Right. Thank you very much, Commissioner. As you mentioned, we have two action items from this committee's agenda on today's board agenda. The first item concerns minor amendments to the fiscal year 2022 through 25 TIP to add federal funds to the Route 80 bridges over Howard Boulevard in Morris County and to the Pavement Preservation NJTPA Regional Program as requested by the New Jersey Department of Transportation. In the interest of simplifying our board action for this online meeting, we have asked some board members to be prepared to offer a motion and a second. I understand NJDOT would like to move this item.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. So moved.
Okay. And Bergen County, will you second?
Bergen County seconds.
Thank you very much. Any comments from the board members? Any comments from members of the public on this item? Okay, Beverly, would you please call the roll?
Bergen,
Yes.
Essex,
Yes.
Jersey City,
Yes.
Middlesex,
Yes.
Monmouth,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Passaic,
Yes.
Somerset,
Yes.
Sussex,
Yes.
Union,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Governor's Office,
Yes.
NJDOT,
Yes.
NJ Transit,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
All right. Next are minor amendments to the 22 through 25 TIP to add two local projects as requested by Morris County and Somerset County. They are the Route 24 eastbound ramp to Columbia Turnpike in Morris County and the Great Road Bridge over Bedens Brook in Somerset County. I understand that Monmouth County would like to move this item.
Yes, Monmouth will move this item.
Thank you. And Essex, will you second?
Essex seconds.
Great. Any comments from members of the board? Any comments from members of the public on this item?
Tim Sevner, did you want to comment on this item? He had sent us an email.
I guess not.
Okay.
Tim's unmuting himself. Thanks for letting us know that, though, Melissa. Beverly, would you please call the roll?
Bergen,
Yes.
Essex,
Yes.
City,
Yes.
Middlesex,
Yes.
Monmouth,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Passaic,
Yes.
Somerset,
Yes.
Sussex,
Yes.
Union,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Governor's Office,
Yes.
NJDOT,
Yes.
NJ Transit,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
All right. That brings us to the Planning and Economic Development. committee. Next, we'll hear from Commissioner Charles Kenny with that committee report. Charles?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. Today's report on the activities of the Planning and Economic Development Committee. At the December meeting, the committee considered one action item regarding setting NJTPA roadway safety performance measures targets for 2023. The region must adopt regional roadway safety targets that meet federal requirements while also advancing the safety priorities described in Plan 2050, the NJTPA's long-range transportation plan. This year, for the first time, the NJTPA is proposing roadway safety targets specific to our region, rather than adopting the statewide targets set by the NJDOT. I should note that the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission has already adopted targets specific to its region, which includes parts of New Jersey. The proposed targets for our region are evidence-based and were set at levels to put the region on a path to reduce fatalities and serious injuries caused by crashes to zero by 2050. The federal government requires targets for 5 roadway safety performance measures. There are 5-year rolling averages of the number of fatalities, the rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicles traveled, the number and rate of serious injuries, and the number of non-motorized fatalities, serious injuries, which refers to cyclists and pedestrians. Target setting this year is particularly challenging because data reflected increases in all 5 of these categories in our region and all of New Jersey that we have been since the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic. A number of NJTPA projects and programs are intended to help our region meet these targets, including the Local Safety and High-Risk Rural Roads Program, Complete Streets Technical Assistance, Travel Demand Management, and others. Approval of the NJTPA roadway safety performance measures targets for 2023 is listed as action item 3 on the agenda. The meeting also features a presentation by Sam Schroeder, a supervising planner for Hudson County, on efforts to develop the 8-mile Hackensack River Greenway, which would tie into several other planned trails. He briefed the committee on the Hackensack River Greenway Working Group's effort to identify and facilitate improvement and connections along the Greenway. The working group includes representatives from Hudson County, Bayonne, Jersey City, Secaucus, and the NJTPA, the New Jersey Sports and Exposition Authority, Skyway Park Conservancy, and the Hackensack River Keep. During the meeting, the committee was also briefed on consultant effort planned for the coming fiscal year, which will assist subregions in developing local safety action plans. As Dave mentioned, these plans are a requirement for accessing federal safe streets and roads for all implementation funding. This is one of several initiatives in the draft fiscal year 2024 work program that the committee was briefed on. As Dave also mentioned, the work program was posted to the NJTPA website last month, and comments on the document are due by Friday. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thanks for the heads up on that upcoming deadline and all the other details from your report. That leaves us with one action item from your committee on today's agenda, and that is the setting of the NJTPA roadway safety performance measure targets for 2023. I understand Union County would like to move this item.
Yes, Chairman, Union County moves item number 3.
Thank you. Citizens Representative, will you second?
Yes, seconded.
Very good. Any comments from the board members? Any comments from members of the public on this action item?
Chairman, it looks like Andy Weiss would like to make a comment.
Looks that way, yes. Andy, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Just like to make a quick comment. All of the county and state roads in New Jersey are incredibly dangerous. The DOT does not listen to any of us. The local municipalities don't listen to us. They say they contact the DOT. The NJTOT does nothing, does not listen to us. All of the county and state roads are dangerous. Please work on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Any other comments from members of the public?
I had a question, if I can ask. Hi,
Sure.
this is Sutapa.
Sutapa,
Are these targets separate from DOT's targets? So TPA is having their own targets now?
Good morning, Sutapa. Yes, we are setting our own regional targets. We have consulted with New Jersey DOT and Division of Highway Traffic Safety on them. So they're consistent with NJDOT's targets, but they are distinct for our region.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, thanks. And just so folks are clear, because this has generated some conversation today, how are the targets used, and what's the role that they play in both the decisions that we make regarding funding particular projects and also, design, engineering, anything else like that? What do these do to the projects that are funded through TPA?
So I'll answer that a bit. That question did come up in prior meetings. So this, setting our own targets, regional targets, I should say, is consistent with Plan 2050, and it's a policy guidance. And it, as Commissioner Kenny indicated, it does. We have a number of programs that we run here at NJTPA, and these targets, basically the programs that we run and we operate will reference from that policy for our target setting. So I think what you heard from from Dave was that we might be doing local safety action plans for the subregions. We know that the IIJA has made safety an important component in the bipartisan infrastructure law. So basically saying is that it influences a lot of the things that we do at NJTPA and consistent with the long range plan. I know, Ted, did you have your hand up? Oh, no? Okay. So,
Commissioner Bartlett, this is Commissioner Sarnoski. May I ask a quick question?
Sure, go ahead, Jason.
Would you say these are more stringent targets than the DOT's, or would you say these are more lax?
So I guess our targets, as are in the board package, start at least short term for 2023. Begin to set a downward annual reduction in number of fatalities and serious injuries. So they're a bit more, just slightly more aggressive than NJDOT's, but not very much so. There's just a slight difference in the sort of anticipated or sort of targeted, target reduction in fatalities and serious injuries. It's not a huge delta at all. So they're slightly more stringent, perhaps. And I know Andy has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. And Jeff, thank you for clarifying that. I would just note that when New Jersey DOT does its safety targets, we do them to meet federal requirements. It is very much a data-driven process. So as noted in the discussion for the regional targets, there have been some challenges such as with the changes in serious injury reporting, as well as the challenges we're all aware of in terms of increased fatalities that have caused difficulty in these targets. However, we have developed these targets consistent with these requirements, but in addition to that, our department is working very actively in the safety area. In FY22, we had a record amount of Highway Safety Improvement Program funds, approximately $93 million that were authorized. And we also are our department has set a vision toward a zero fatalities by 2050. So I would not want to say that our safety targets are not the sum total of the work that the department is doing regarding safety. And all of this is done in collaboration with our partners at NJTPA and others. So, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add that the same is the case for our specific targets as well. These are based on very specific requirements from the federal government that have to do with 5-year rolling averages, and they do not encompass our vision for safety. They are to satisfy this federal requirement and to help steer us towards that ultimate goal. And I think that, and part of the reason we chose to do this was a lot of the initiatives that our own subregions are taking, Middlesex County, Jersey City, et cetera, with their Vision Zero efforts. So we're pleased to offer these up to the board, and we think that they will, contribute towards improving safety in our region.
I appreciate that combination of aspirational and data-driven. We can all say we'd like all these numbers to be zero. We also recognize that, when the federal government is looking at those 5-year rolling averages, we have to both be guided by that ambition and a recognition that here's where we're at right now. And I think we see that in the curve that's described in this standard. So I appreciate the detailed discussion that drove. Anybody else want to raise their hand before I ask Beverly to call a vote? Okay, well, thanks to everybody, Jeff, Andy, David, and to Jason and the other folks whose questions drove the conversation. So thanks for that. And Beverly, would you call the roll? Did I do the motion and second part?
Yes.
I did. Will you call the roll on this action item, please?
Okay. Bergen,
Yes.
Essex,
Yes.
Jersey City,
Yes.
Middlesex,
Yes.
Monmouth, Morris,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Passaic,
Yes.
Somerset,
Yes.
Sussex,
Yes.
Union,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Governor's Office,
Yes.
NJDOT,
Yes.
NJ Transit,
Yes.
Citizens Representative.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Beverly. Now I will call on Commissioner Jason Sarnoski to give the Freight Initiatives Committee report. Jason?
Thank you, Chair. I am pleased to report on the December meeting of the Freight Initiatives Committee, which featured our 5th annual New Jersey Industrial Real Estate Update. The committee heard from 3 guest speakers who discussed a variety of trends in that sector. The first was William Waxman, Vice Chair at the Cushman and Wakefield. He said there is still a huge demand for warehouse space, and he estimates that about 140 million square feet are being built in the New York, New Jersey, Lehigh Valley area. Over the past 3 years, demand has been driven by e-commerce companies looking to build their last mile quick delivery services. This has caused industrial properties pricing to increase by up to 25% and forced some regional hubs to move further south and into Pennsylvania and Delaware, where rents are much cheaper. However, the tenant mix has begun to shift more towards the retail companies, third-party logistic firms, healthcare products, and food and beverage companies. He said that the vacancy rate has begun to grow a little, which has slowed the increase in rental fees. However, Bill noted that demand for cold storage has grown and needs need to be met. Next, Stephen Beta, Senior Vice President of Acquisitions at Woodmock Industrial Partners, spoke about trends in converting office space to industrial uses within North and Central New Jersey, mostly in former offices parks in Bergen, Middlesex, Morris, and Somerset counties, with statewide office space vacancies at about 20%. He said there will be other conversions as developers reconsider and reevaluate the best use of properties. He noted that office buildings tend to be concentrated in locations with strong labor and can often meet the transportation requirements for industrial industrial uses. In addition, Jesse Hardy, Senior Vice President and Marketing Officer for New Jersey and New York at Prologis, spoke about how developers will need to get more creative to meet growing demand for space. He noted that site constraints and the cost of land in New York City have led to the creation of multi-story industrial developments, and it remains to be seen if this strategy comes to New Jersey. During the meeting, the NJTPA freight staff provided an update on studies that were underway, including the freight rail grade crossing assessment update and freight concept development program projects in Somerset and Morris counties. Among the number of reports at the meeting, NJDOT said senior leadership is reviewing Rail Freight Assistant Program Award recommendations, as well as the statewide freight plan update. The Port Authority reported that despite the record increase in container traffic at the port, ships are facing less wait time, reflecting the ability of the freight network to digest and move containers despite congestion. This concludes the Freight Initiatives Committee report.
Excuse me. Thank you very much, Commissioner. That brings us to the public participation portion of the public participation portion of the meeting. We will call on people in the order that they signed up. Please request to comment or ask questions in the chat box, or wait until we call for comments from those who are on their phones. Also, please remember to mute yourselves when you're not speaking. As a reminder, we advise members of the public that we have a 3-minute time limit on comments, and also that comments become part of the public record of this meeting, which is, as I mentioned at the beginning, being live broadcast on the internet. The time will be displayed on the screen for your comment, that countdown 3-minute timer, while each person is speaking. Ted, have any members of the public signed up in advance to speak at today's meeting?
Yes, Chairman. We had 3 folks sign up in advance. First is David Peter Allen, followed by Andy Weiss.
Okay. David, go right ahead.
Well, some of you might know me from the Lifestyle Users Network or through my writing for addressing you in a different capacity to Data Attack, the Senior Citizens and Disability Advisory Committee at NJTPA is fighting for its life, for advice both within and outside issues concerning transportation for senior disabilities, 2 of the most vulnerable transit's ridership. Our purview including ADA accommodation, transit funding, connectivity,
David,
transit run by counties and others. Never objected until now. Section 16:78 of the New Jersey Administrative Code activity and restrict our program. All of our other persons with disabilities would be prohibited, become useless and irrelevant. A provision that would effectively be buried in the documentation of being on December 14th, when it was found out about it by accident. The broad purposes of the Senior Transportation Assistance Act, which established our committee, the Trans 79, which founded New Jersey Administrative Procedure Act, which requires support existing legislation. Violations, the proposed change seniors and persons with disability on one channel they have for contact with NJ Transit, who are like them, depend on transit for nationwide reputations in the transit. New Jersey's law against discrimination on the basis of age or disability would clearly discriminate on those. We're strictly advisory. But still, somebody at NJ Transit, or at least shut us up. We are knowledgeable civic, want to keep helping other people who are alive. New Jersey Transit Board seems surprised, voiced our strong objections, and they postpone the item until we will do everything we can to bring to the attention of anyone who might prevent it. Many of your elected constituents are also our constituents, and your intervention to allow helping the transit riders. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to.
David, thank you very much for your comments. Your audio was a little bit unclear, but I know from staff that we received your statement in written format, and I'm going to ask staff to circulate it to the board via email after the meeting so that we all make sure that we heard everything that you had to say accurately. But certainly your conviction came across, and we want to be responsive to the concerns of riders with disabilities. So thank you very much. And staff, for those of you who, like me, had a little difficulty hearing, staff will circulate David's written statement via email after the meeting.
I was also able to upload it into the chat in case anybody from the public wants to see it.
Oh, terrific. Thank you very much, Melissa.
No problem.
So again, David, thank you for your time. Ted, who's next? Yes,
Andy Weiss was second.
Bartlett.
Thank you. Yeah, Andy, go right ahead.
Good morning, board. The Hudson County Safety Improvement Project meeting about Boulevard East on November 30th was a complete disaster. The public was only given a small chat box to make public comments, and we could not speak. We could not speak and could only use the meeting chat feature. Why did the NJTPA participate in this debacle that shut down our voices? Did you also make the politicians and stakeholders of Hudson County use a chat box? The answer is no. How come citizens were only given a chat box and could not speak? NJTPA participated in this unfair meeting, and it must never happen again. The chat box was maliciously planned to silence our voices. Only giving us a chat box was a way to deceive the public and silence us. I am asking for another Hudson County Safety Improvement Project meeting that allows the public to speak. NJTPA Executive Director David Barron needs to investigate what happened at this meeting and give us a new meeting. Another issue, privatizing public transit with Via Jersey City is wrong. Noam Chomsky had a great quote about privatization in America. His quote is, "That's the standard technique of privatization. Defund, make sure things don't work, people get angry, you hand it over to private capital," end quote. That's what you did to NJ Transit. That's why we have Via Jersey City. You destroyed NJ Transit, now Via comes in. We need bus rapid transit in New Jersey with dedicated bus lines, with dedicated bus lanes, with great bus frequency. People need to understand that Mayor Fulop of Jersey City was working on bus rapid transit, and all of a sudden he ended BRT, and then Via appeared. That hurt every NJ Transit rider. Via Jersey City replaced a great plan for countywide bus rapid transit in Hudson County with dedicated bus lanes. We need great NJ Transit bus frequency with unobstructed bus lanes. Via does not have dedicated lanes in Jersey City and gets stuck in slow-moving car traffic. Via Jersey City only covers half of Jersey City and ends at 10 p.m. Via Jersey City is privatization of public transit giveaway, and they are funded by billionaire Charles Koch, who hates public transit. Via is just another car on the roads, and we need less cars. We need buses with bus lanes. That's real equitable transit. Also, another topic, we need bus rapid transit in Kennedy Boulevard in Hudson County. My NJ Transit buses in Hudson County are stuck in slow-moving car traffic all day. Is anybody planning and trying to get funding for bus rapid transit on Kennedy Boulevard? Why is New Jersey without bus rapid transit? We need BRT on Kennedy Boulevard now. Thank you.
Andy, thank you very much for your comments. I'm not familiar with the Hudson County meeting you described, but I appreciate that you raised the issues, and I'll pose that question. And as to bus rapid transit, I can certainly say that I and several other board members are advocates of that. And as to the specific sites you're talking about, again, I'm not familiar enough to answer the question, but I appreciate the input, and I know that as a Jersey City resident, you've got two votes on this board who I'm sure were listening very carefully. Ted, who's next?
Tim Sevener signed up next to speak.
Great. Tim, go right ahead.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Tim. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. All right. As I'm downstairs. It's Tim Sevener from the New Jersey Association of Rail Passengers. And I would just like to comment, I don't know if it's come under your purview yet, but this I-78 expansion in Jersey City is a disaster. It's now doubled in price to $10.7 billion, which is huge. It makes no sense to widen highways. Houston has 26-lane highway. It's not going to do anything to cut the traffic. And there is an alternative, which is, as I've been telling the board for many years, since 2008, a number of rail lines have drastically had their Hoboken service cut, which provides another option to get to Jersey City. I used to be able to go to my train station in Mount Tabor and take an express train on the Morse line to Hoboken in 52 minutes. But now, 30% of our Hoboken trains are cut. Just yesterday, once again, there were problems with the New York Penn Station connections. Hoboken is way more reliable, has 30 tracks. But before spending $10.7 billion on expanding I-78, we should be investing in restoring the rail we have. The Jersey coastline has also had cuts. Another key thing to do is in this age of climate change and electrification, it's great to have electric vehicles. We already have electric transportation in rail, which we've had for many years. There's 300K electric rail riders. The Hudson Bergen Light Rail is electric. The Morse Line is electric. Northeast Corridor is electric. However, there's key gaps from Montclair State to Denville is not electrified. And the last train that I can take east on the Boonton line is 9 a.m. That's ridiculous. Why even run the service then? There's students who go to Montclair State who cannot take the train to get there if the last train is 9 a.m. Now, solution to that is electrify from Montclair State to Denville. Also, another gap is from Long Branch to Bayhead. That's diesel also. And then that requires either a transfer or New Jersey Transit has to invest in very expensive dual mode diesel electric locomotives. It's polluting once you get on a diesel. It costs more money. There's fuel. We need to have a plan to electrify all of our rail lines. Finally, on that, I didn't get a chance to comment. Well, okay, my time is running out. So I hope you'll consider electrification and restoring rail. Thank you.
Tim, thank you very much. If there was something you wanted to add, you certainly should feel free to email it to us or, of course, join us again and comment again at a future meeting. Ted, I see one hand raised. Is there anybody who's ahead of Sally on your list?
Oh, I believe Sally Geller will be next.
Okay. Sally, your 3 minutes are starting now.
Thank you. Sally Gellert, I am speaking as a personal person. I am a chairperson of the Lackawanna Coalition. I am also the vice chair, newly elected, of ScatterTac, and I endorse Dave's comments in that capacity. I hope you can hear me through my computer glitches. ScatterTac learned through a New Jersey Transit staff person and encouraging our chairperson to approve a change in regulation that would seriously harm or eliminate our committee without really telling him what it was about. It was really underhanded, and we object to that. Regarding today's meeting, I support the other comments that have been made by the public so far. I am concerned about warehouse concentration. Communities are being overwhelmed by warehouse development. On the VIA issue, the presentation was quite interesting. However, yesterday at a transportation camp, I heard from a group from Denton, Texas, who is working on a coalition against predatory microtransit. There are some uses where microtransit can connect, and it seems like Jersey City might be doing a decent job of that, but we have to be very wary about privatization. I completely agree with the Noam Chomsky comment and the gentleman who spoke on that. What else did I want to say? Yeah. So we would like us at ScatterTac would like support of NJTPA and everyone here to allow us to continue to talk about all of the needs of senior citizens and disabled riders. Yes, we focus primarily on the one program, but we are the sole place where seniors and disabled residents can come to New Jersey Transit representatives. We have managers at our meetings. We have open meetings, which the other advisory committees do not. And we really need to be able to be a good voice for our constituents. So please help us with that and check.
Thank you very much, Sally. Appreciate your comments. Ted, has anybody else chimed in or raised their hand asking to speak?
No, sir, Chairman, not at this time.
Okay, so with that, let me open the floor to anybody who might not have been able to post in the chat or maybe have dialed in. If you want to, I see Sutapa again.
Yes, I just wanted to add something to that presentation on federal funding that VIA did. They talked about the carbon reduction program, then the congestion relief program, ATC MTD, and then there was one other source of funding, rural transportation program. Other than the carbon reduction program, the rest of the funding sources are discretionary. So I just wanted to point that out, that is competitive funding. The carbon reduction program, there is formula funding there, but for all the others, it is, there will be a NOFO that will come out, and then you have to submit application and it will be considered competitively. So just keep that in mind. I would also like to encourage everyone about the ATC MTD. According to our stats, New Jersey has not submitted an application for a long time for that grant program. So it is something that comes out every year. So have a look at what the requirements are. And it is one of those funding programs where you can actually partner with the universities and submit proposals. Not many funding sources allow that. So we would like to just take, this opportunity to encourage everyone to have a look at what the requirements are. And if you do have a proposal, submit something, because New Jersey haven't seen proposals coming in. So yeah, that's all that I had. Just wanted to add a few points to what the presentation said.
That's great. Thank you very much, Satapa. And, we always want to be competing for those federal fundings, and appreciate your heads up on that. Anybody else want to unmute and be part of our public portion today? Okay. Hearing none, that brings us to letter J, the time and place of our next meeting. As I mentioned, we will be back live and in person in Newark, New Jersey at the NJTPA offices on the 17th floor on Monday, March 13th, 2023 at 10:30 a.m. Please join us. We look forward to being back together in person for literally the first time in 3 years. So we will see you then. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Ocean County moves to adjourn.
Second Union.
Very good. All in favor, say aye and click the little red leave button at the bottom of your screen.
Aye.
Aye. Thank
Aye.
you. See you all in March.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, Dave.